I'd like to reference the data that I distributed to the group last meeting and also electronically, which lists the things that I would like to have to work with now in the budget. And I think people have that. I saw it. This is Rob, all I see has it.
I have your handout from last time, yes.
Okay, great. And I've organized this by budget year, because starting with the budget year that we're working in right now, the one that ends in July, I'd like to have the final expenditures and listed carryover expenditures into the new year. And I think that by September 30th, or by sometime in September, you probably would have the current 2013-14 year closed out and be able to provide final numbers for that. So, like Ms. Gorman, I've said Excel format, but any machine-readable format, like a text file that can be exported and imported.
Can I
for exactly those reasons? Yeah.
Can I just make a comment here? I'm looking through all this stuff, and I'm not sure quite how to go about this process, but a lot of what you're asking for is really school board information. It's really nothing that's not our purview. It's we're not going to play with contracts here in the budget committee. We're not going to play with each individual salaries, and we're not going to. What else did I see? We're not going to play with professional certifications. This is not what the budget committee does.
I think you're misreading it, and since this is on paper in front of us, but it is not available to the people who are watching on television.
Or the superintendent.
I can give it to you.
I'm listening. I'm a good listener.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll listen too, but I'll take one at some point also.
Sure. For the 2014-15 year, the year that starts in July, the final approved default budget updated with warrant articles. Well,
You have that in front of you now.
We have the expenditure portion of it. We don't have the revenue portion of it. We can assume, or I'm not sure if we should be assuming that the revenue portion matches what was in the proposed budget, because I guess the plan is to carry on with the full-day kindergarten, and that involves tuition. So, I would like to see the full picture, revenue as well as expenditure. And again, as with the current year, would like to have it in machine-readable form. Secondly, the full 2014 tax impact form, including the average daily membership and assessment. There was a take of that presented at deliberative. Of course, that has to change because of the.
What do you mean by tape of that?
Oh, there was
that?
a take. There was an abstract of that in deliberative, but it didn't include the ADM ratios and so forth. So I would like to have the full form as it would appear in the annual report. Next, the staffing reports as would be prepared for the New Hampshire Department of Education that show the FTE details for calculation of student-teacher ratios. Next, and I think this is where Mrs. Rothwell was starting to go, an organization chart. That's a complete organization chart. And then for each position, we need to know in the title of the position, whether it's a full-time employee or contract, what the what the reporting relationship is. In other words, it doesn't. In other words, we need to know who reports to who. Full-time or percent part-time. We need to know how this position would be classified for summarization in the annual report, where we see it by position. We also need to know how it's classified for the New Hampshire Department of Education for FTE staffing returns, because those two things lead to a big difference in talking about staffing levels and student-teacher ratios. We need to know whether this position is part of a bargaining unit, so we know who's governed by what, which positions are governed by what collective agreements. So Mrs. Rothwell, the point isn't to talk about the collective agreements, it's to know which positions are associated with.
And what are we going to do with that information, Mr. Green?
We're going to understand the staffing picture of the district, because as we demonstrated in the deliberative.
Are we going to decrease or increase the, beyond any increase that Dr. Metzler brings forward, that we're going to?
We're going to be in a position to deal with headcount in the district, which is the principal driver of costs, and which cannot be ignored if the budget is to be managed properly in an organization that's 75% salaried costs. And at deliberative, we showed that we're overstaffed by at least 30 positions. We need to understand the staffing in order to discuss that intelligently.
We're not going to discuss staffing at this meeting. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle. We are not going to go into staffing at this meeting. This is not what the Budget Committee does. Dr. Metzler is going to present a budget of the staff and I don't know how to say this. It's just not staffing. The staffing needs. If he needs to increase the staff for a certain position, like we did with I don't know. I'm trying to think. Oh, the high school.
Yes.
We increased the staff at the high school for the engineering group. But that was this. But that was because they presented a program. We didn't decrease or increase staff per se. We agreed or voted on the program. We don't go into individual staff. We go into if he comes forward with a new program. Then, and if we cut the budget by a certain amount of money, then Dr. Metzler will make the decision which staff will go, not us.
We don't go into individual staff. We have a district which has decreased significantly in enrollment, increased significantly in costs, and staffing has hardly changed at all. Unless we deal with headcount, we are not doing our job as a budget committee. Now, people may choose to pay attention to this matter or not, but I am paying attention to it. And that is very much the scope of this committee. Now, if I can finish going through what I consider necessary in order to deal intelligently with the budget, I've got to an identification. We need to know which positions are vacant, because we think that vacancy is one of the ways that's being used right now to manage the surplus, which is another key issue. And we could be dealing with a $2 million tax increase just on the basis of consuming the surplus. So we need to know vacant positions, the annual salary associated with position, and we need that again, in a machine-readable form. Next, a balance sheet, including depreciating assets, vehicles, computers, and so forth. Real estate, including breakout of land and building values, book value, and the current value, and short-term and long-term debt. And finally, a list of upcoming special items impacting the 2014-15, but not included, like the New Hampshire pension, health, that kind of thing. So that's covering the 14-15 budget year. And then for the 15-16 budget year, which is the yearly budget, of course, we'll need the headcount projections and FTE projections as they would appear in the annual report and in the submissions to the New Hampshire Department of Education, as well as all the budget information, the line item information that Mr. Sokinger would normally provide.
Okay. We have this information here that he is requesting. It's quite a bit of information. Would somebody either like to comment, make a motion? Do we want to go into this?
In order to adopt this to our budget committee, I think a motion would have to be made.
Do we do it as a complete motion on all the packet?
Yes,
each,
the
or
entire
on
packet.
each individual item separately?
Well,
I guess it depends on the motion.
It can be amended, it can be dealt with. So I move that we provide this as a list, as an expectation to the administration, that this is the information or that the budget committee would like to have to work with per the dates that are listed here.
Okay, second?
Second.
By Mrs. Gorham. Any discussion? No discussion?
I guess part of the discussion is, what I was confused over last year, and I continue to be confused over, and I'm hoping we can get this, is I would like a list of what we have control over with the budgeting process.
We have a motion on
Okay.
this particular form, can we,
That's fine,
okay, if it's not exactly on this form,
okay.
I have just a question. Do any of these numbers under the complete organizational chart, do any of these metrics exist today? Are they somewhere where they're easily attainable, so that you've already got the metrics?
they're on the right to know.
Or do you have to create all of these from scratch? I'm talking about, George, the stuff on the complete organizational chart, those 10 bullets.
Well, I don't know what a complete organization chart means. I know what an organization chart looks like, and usually it's management. I know Dr. Metzler has a current one where there's a couple layers, starting with him, the assistant superintendent, and so forth. This position information, some of it's available, some of it, to be honest, I don't understand.
Yeah. You're not looking for, Mr. Green, you're not looking for all of this information actually on the organizational chart. Are you? You're looking for some of this information separately and referencing the organizational chart, I would imagine.
I'm totally negotiable. The format, the organization of the information.
All right, if I could just make a general comment, in my opinion, this is a difficult medicine to take here, but it's if you're going to manage this entity, these are the metrics that you need, and these are the analytics that you have to, somebody has to do that. If you say it's not in the purview of the budget committee, that may be appropriate, I don't know. But somebody, we need to know that somebody in the system is putting these metrics together and doing the analytics. It's not easy, but we need to know that it's happening.
I
And it may be, I just don't know.
That's basically my job description, you know. I take the resources that we have to offer the very best. You know, I find it interesting that yet we think we have 30 too many teachers, yet we need documents because we don't understand staffing levels. And that's true. You don't understand staffing levels. You don't know what it's like to run a school district. You don't. So that's why we need to stay focused on the budget and do the work of the budget, the 15-16 school budget. That's the charge of this group. My job is to run the school district with the help of a business administrator and other professionals that have done their life's work running a school district, doing the work, understanding the resources, knowing what we need. And I'm asking you what I asked you 2 hours ago for, you know? Just give me the number and we'll make it work.
I'd move the question.
All right.
Question's
At
moved.
the, all those in favor of proposing, the question has been moved?
Point of order.
All right.
My point of order, and I say this because I have something to say and I wish to say, but my point of order is, I believe a question being moved requires itself a vote. I realize that has not been the practice, but if you consult Robert's rules, you will see that moving the question itself has to be voted. And I, for one, have...
Robert Rules is not it's, we use that as a guideline. So, I would like to move the question. All those in favor of accepting this document as Mr. Green presented, raise your hand. All right, 2. All those against?
No, you know what?
1 abstention?
I am abstaining.
Abstaining?
I'm abstaining too.
2 abstentions.
Okay.
There will be a right to know at the appropriate time.
Okay, and you do have the right to know, but this, not here.
Hopefully the right to know is narrow in its scope and is not an omnibus document that tries to cover things that are far outside of our scope, such as knowing levels of certification for our professionals. I'm not quite sure how depreciating assets, vehicles, computers, real estate breakouts, land values. Right to know all you want, but hopefully it's specific to the things that are germane to this committee as opposed to.
Could be
I
thousands,
would like
could be
to-
thousands of
Documents
pages,
for
the
the sake of
way I
requesting
see it.
documents.
Could be thousands of pages.
All right, I would like to move to Danville vacancy.
The Danville Board of Selectmen will be meeting next Monday, and we'll make a decision at that time.
Okay, thank you.
If you want me to extrapolate, because we've extrapolated everything else tonight, I can.
No, please. Other business? Anybody have something specific? Mr. Green?
Thank you. As I indicated before, I do have a motion under RSA 3222. I read it once. I'm not going to burden us all by reading it again. Of course, I have it in writing for Kathy. Essentially, it's requesting that this committee be in receipt on a monthly, regular basis of a monthly financial expenditure report. Again, I've been very specific what I've asked for in what I think is a very contained, focused way of a standard monthly report that shows expenditures and revenues exactly per the line items of the budget that Mr. Stoker just circulated. The school board itself, which I thought would be the body that would look at such reports, has decided over the course of the last 2 meetings they're not interested in doing so. Under our 3222, the budget committee is empowered to do so. And I believe it's important that we do so for a couple of reasons. I'll state 3 of them. Number
Point of
one,
order, is this a motion? Because we don't have a second to have a discussion
I
yet.
have moved I have moved it. You're right, we need a seconder.
Second, for discussion.
All right.
Thanks, Kathy. 3 reasons. Number one, it's basic practice to review monthly financial reports. In a body like, in an organization like the school district, if it's not the school board looking at it, it should be us. One of the elected bodies should be looking at it. Second is that we are getting close to the end of the year. I would like to be watching the trending and seeing if there is the possibility that, you know, by virtual watching, trying to prevent any backloading of expenditures toward the latter part of the year. It's extremely important, and it's going to come up again and again, that we protect the surplus. It's critical to maintaining the level of preventing taxes from jumping up very rapidly. So we have to know that we're going to be carrying over a consistent level of surplus into the following year. Number 3, the district this year was in receipt of a substantial rebate from LGC on insurance costs, about $750,000. And I would like the opportunity by inspecting the financial reports to try to understand, you know, how the money is flowing vis-a-vis the original projections, and you know, possibly understand how that money is being applied. Again, it's a very serious amount of money, especially since we were targeting a $2 million carryover into the surplus from $2 million carryover into the surplus line.
Mr. Green,
for
could
the
you,
revenue next year.
could you roll it up a little bit, because it is getting late.
Anyway, I'll just close it off. We need those reports again. That's my point.
Okay. Are you asking these reports to be on a monthly basis or at each meeting?
I'm asking that they be on a monthly basis.
And how do you want them
That-
sent?
The resolution, again, I didn't read it a second time. The resolution says that they be posted on our SharePoint, and that we have a standing item on our meeting on our agenda. to
Okay.
look at.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Without any further discussion, I'd like to move that motion. All those in favor of the monthly reports, raise your hand. monthly revenue reports as motion.
Revenue and expenditure.
All right, 2 in favor? All right, those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in favor?
5
1,
opposed.
2, opposed,
2 in favor,
rather?
5 opposed.
Oh, God, I just might be home. And do we have 1 abstention? Mr. Cantone, okay.
And
Mr.
you can take this as
Mr.
an official right to know request.